So what's your argument on what's causing house prices to rise in, for example, Vancouver, Toronto?
We believe it's immigration, like immigration and like financial other investment.
So it's just a simple demand supply or
Yeah.
increase in demand pushes prices.
Yeah.
What's the average house price? I thought I heard on the news it's 800,000 in Vancouver.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's 900,000. 900,000? Yeah.
So let's say 800. You've got two people working in a family, so I don't know what you'd call it now, a unit. It used to be called husband and wife, but there's a new term for it now.
Okay.
So let's say they're making 100,000 each, that's 200. So the price of a house is 400, 4 times that, which is the usual sort of going green thumb rule of thumb anyway, that the price of a house should be 4 times your gross income. So there might not even be an exorbitant, let's call it bubble.
That's assuming there's a lot of families with dual $200,000 income.
Yeah.
I don't think there is.
With the average income of $40,000 a year, double that, that's your.
The average income in Vancouver is 40,000.
That's what I know. Like, in
I find that hard to believe.
In Vancouver, you're not going to be living with two people, $40,000 anywhere within Montana.
Right.
But
What is the average income in Vancouver area?
I don't think
We're talking about the bubble in Vancouver, so that's an interesting question. What's the average income?
I don't think we have the statistics on that because we're arguing that.
So we don't even know if the price of a house at 800,000 is high or low relative to.
Well, except that most of the stuff that I've read, and I think most people have been exposed to on this issue recently, has been talking about places like Deutsche Bank saying, ooh, places are 60% overpriced, and they're basing that, one of the metrics is based on average house price compared to median income, and it's so out of whack. Right? So I don't know what the median income is, but it's very low in comparison to average house prices compared to standard situation.
The Deutsche Bank and Robert Shiller and the IMF all say that they're all agreeing that the economy, the housing prices are like 60% overvalued, said the Deutsche Bank study. So
Okay, so this is maybe a silly question. If housing prices are so out of whack compared to the median income, why are they out of whack? And your response is what? Offshore money, which isn't included in median income? Is that your argument?
yes,
Yeah.
And your response to that?
our response to that is that it's interest rates, and low interest rates is providing stimulus.
Okay, so prove that.
We can,
Because of the low interest rate of the Bank of Canada, people can borrow money more easily from the banks because the interest rate is so low. Is that?
Right. That's obvious, but the question is that happening? That people are borrowing lots of money to buy houses and jack up prices?
Because compared with the stock market, the housing market, house is an asset that seemed be considered more stable and less likely to drop the price. Where the stock market is more fluid.
No, but your argument is the reason prices of houses are high is because interest rates are so low. Their argument is the reason the price of houses is high is because of offshore money. In very simple terms. Prove your point. I understand your logic. Now prove your point.
if it was offshore money, then there would be, it's not general Canada that is being influenced by offshore money. It's just a few amount, like a small amount of people. 66,000 was the immigrant investor program when it was eliminated. That's how many people. That's 22% of the Canadian population. It can't be impacting housing prices across Canada. If it's 0.2% of the population, it's just going to be bidding on housing. And if we go, and then low interest rates is providing stimulus for everyone across Canada to, it provides incentive for everyone across Canada to buy housing. Everyone.
But if that's true, then housing prices should be rising in Ottawa, and they're not.
But it doesn't change the fact that, it doesn't change how housing in Ottawa and Vancouver are different. Vancouver has huge demand because it is a nice place to live. It's like number 4 on the Mercer's quality of living. It is great demand there. And then the interest rates accentuate that. They provide people with more money.
Well, that's my hypothesis. I'm saying, where's the meat? I understand your hypothesis. Low interest rates are an incentive to increase the demand for buying a house, which will then push up the price. And for example, in Vancouver, it has pushed prices relatively unreasonably high. In other areas of the country, it prevents the prices from falling. I understand the hypothesis. They're saying that's not true, so prove your point. I understand your hypothesis.
More statistics on it.
Okay, we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Negative side, prove your point.
One part that he was saying like about the data, it's only 22% of immigrants.
Well, one of your arguments is offshore money pushes up the price of houses. Did you prove that? I read somewhere where that's not true. Now, I can't prove it. That's why I'm asking you. Can you prove it? Can you prove that? Their hypothesis seems logical, right? If money's cheap, then there's a greater incentive to buy a house, which pushes up demand, which pushes up price.
But seeing our side, if we're saying that lower interest rate is not the case, and we only have to prove that we shouldn't increase lower interest rate. Like if we find there's other reason other than the lower interest rate, that's
Okay, all right, so prove those other reasons.
So, as we mentioned before, the housing price in Halifax and Ottawa and Victoria actually decreasing. And
Or
because
decrease.
decreasing.
It's not a national phenomenon.
It's not national phenomenon. If the low interest rate caused the housing bubble, it should be a national.
But if you didn't have low interest rates, if you had higher interest rates, maybe they would drop faster. So the fact that housing prices in Ottawa are falling a bit doesn't prove that interest rates are not an incentive.
But in comparison, like if we compare Vancouver.
Like in a sense, isn't that the main argument? Interest rates are an incentive.
Yeah.
I mean, in one quick sentence, that's the argument. They're saying it is, you're arguing it is.
So I think it's because of the immigration policy. Because
Okay, so prove that.
for the most immigration comes to Canada for like 2 places in Canada, like Vancouver and Toronto. So we can see stats that
I think I have something to like have a studies. So about the government policy about this issue. So the government is trying to. It's also viewed Vancouver housing problem like as a local problem. So they announced to scrap incentive outright by eliminating 59,000 applications from worldwide immigrants. So they the government thinks it's the immigration that's causing the problem. It's not. So they are also keeping it like the low interest rate at 1% for
Okay, how about a summary now? Shall we?
So any questions?
I don't think I'm sorry, but I have to watch the time here. I'll bypass it. Your questions were superseded by my questions, and I apologize.
We have one good one, but
Yes,
So we'll do the housing study.
yes, please.
interest rate policy. The problem we are facing now are with the benefits. Creating the asset bubble, widening the gap of wealth, and inducing inefficient investment are just 3 examples. Since all those disadvantages will ultimately destroy the economy and harm the whole society, we insist that the Bank of Canada should immediately raise the interest rate. By raising interest rate, we reduce risks of a recession and make the bond market viable for investors. We change the economic.
Raising the interest rate reduces the risk of recession.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Because you have,
Charlene?
Because
Raising the interest rate reduces the risk of recession. Seems to be counterintuitive. Lower interest rate is easy monetary, which reduces the risk of recession.
Well, I assume what you're getting at, given your thesis, is the fact that if you don't increase the interest rate, then there will be an asset bubble which will burst, which will cause significant problems. So you can avoid that by generally increasing the interest rate.
All right, go ahead.
change the economic policy from stimulus to stability, ensuring confidence in the Canadian market and providing a stable platform for future natural growth. With so many advantages that we can gain in the long term from raising interest rate, we reiterate that Bank of Canada should end its low interest rate policy as soon as possible and begin to raise the interest rate.
Okay, thank you. And closing statements, gentlemen?
We believe that to increase the interest rate without knowing the real underlying reasons for the bubble, or whether the bubble really exists, is not a considerable solution. So when keeping a low interest rate is favorable for the entire economy to stay competitive in the world economy, to target a low inflation rate and to stimulate economic growth. Increasing interest rate as a solution with careless understanding of the markets will potentially hurt the entire Canadian economic growth and may drag Canadian economy to another recession, just as that's the one we experienced in 2007.
So to summarize your argument, you don't really think there is a bubble, asset bubble, and therefore let's just use monetary policy as we usually use it to encourage economic growth. And don't worry about the side issue, which probably isn't even an issue, which is the asset. Is that what you're saying? Okay, thank you. All right, well, that was